Hey everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to tune your guitar even if you do not have a tuner with you. Now, hands down, the best way to get a guitar in tune quickly is to have a tuner. This could be a tuner on your cell phone, a standalone tuner with a microphone in it, or one of these clip-on tuners. I prefer a clip-on tuner because even if you're in a noisy environment where a microphone tuner may be confused with some of the other sounds, this here works off the vibrations of your instrument, so it doesn't pick up all of the other sounds in your environment. It's just listening to what your guitar is doing itself, and it's going to be the easiest way for you to tune quickly. But for whatever reason, let's say you forgot your tuner, or your tuner died on you, or whatever the case may be. I always think it's a good idea to have some sort of backup plan set up. Now today with cell phones, it's really easy to have a tuner on there, or be able to reference off of like a YouTube video, or something like that that's going to give you the pitches that you need to tune your guitar. However, let's say for whatever reason, you don't have a tuner, your cell phone's dead, there's no one else around, and you need your guitar in tune, and you're just stuck, right? You're just in one of those positions that you don't know what to do now. Well, you've got a few other options that people have been using for years. This here is a tuning fork, and the actual stem of this tuning fork says A440, which means that this here, when struck against something, will resonate at an A note, which we know is our second thickest string on guitar. So, if we hit this against something and hold it against the guitar, you now have an A note that's vibrating through the instrument. And then you can take that second thickest string, your A string, and make sure it matches. Okay, so that's how you tune with a tuning fork. You could also have something like this metronome. Now, typically a metronome you're setting to a tempo, and it's keeping you in time for being able to practice or at a tempo of a song. But some metronomes, like this one, actually have a note reference on them. So this one has an A note that you can play that will allow you to then tune your instrument with this by ear. And make sure that your note of that string is in tune. Last thing I'm going to show you is a kind of an interesting thing to think about, and maybe not the most practical one, but it's still an option if you happen to be stuck in this particular situation. You can take a landline phone and actually use the dial tone, where this one here is not an A note, however, it is an F note, which I figured by playing the keys on the piano until it matched. And you can actually use this by knowing that our first fret of your low E string or your high E string is an F. So you play this note, and make sure that note is in tune with what you're hearing off of the dial tone. And then you can start from there. Now you may be asking yourself, well, how does this actually help me? Because a tuner is going to help me tune all the strings. But what you're showing me is only going to help me tune one string. Well, the beauty of guitar is that it actually has a certain repetition to the way that the strings are laid out. So if we take our E string and we work up to our 5th fret, our 5th fret is actually an A, which, as you probably figured out already, is the name of our next string. And our A string, if you go up to the 5th fret, that note is a D, which is the same as our next string. And if you go to a D, up to the 5th fret, that note is a G. Now the one spot that this technique actually changes is on the G string. It's the 4th fret that's a B. And then a B on the 5th fret is E. So as long as you have one string in tune, you can actually use this technique to then tune the rest of your strings off of that pitch. So let's say again we just have our A tuned with our tuning fork. Right, and we're confident that that's pretty close to being in tune. Okay, so now we put our tuning fork down, we've got that A note, and then we know if we hold the 5th fret of our low E string and play both these strings together, that if those pitches now match, where you're not hearing that warbling in between, you hear that, how that, and now the pitch comes together, so you only hear one pitch. That there lets us know that those strings are now in tune. We can do the same thing with the next two strings. And the next two strings. And the next two strings, remember that it's the 4th fret of the G string is our B. And then B string 5th fret. And now our guitar will be in tune. So that's one thing if your guitar is just totally out of tune, you're trying to figure it out. But the more practical use of this is, let's say you're playing a song or you're in between songs, and all that you've done is maybe you've bumped your guitar headstock against something and it's knocked your one string out of tune. So let's say we've hit this G string and it's out of tune now. We go to start playing and we're like, oh no, something is wrong. But you can tell it just sounds like there's one thing out of place. Well, you can work through your strings. Oh, there it is. Ah. Now we're back in tune again, right? And easily get your guitar back in tune without having to grab your tuner, put it on, just to tune that one string back into place. So that's what I would do if I was in a situation where maybe one string's out of tune. That's the easier, faster way to kind of figure this out. Make sure that you're in tune quickly without having to necessarily pick up your tuner and go for that. But it also kind of saves you in those situations where maybe you don't have a tuner available or your tuner's died on you and you have to look at some other options to get you to a place where you can now get your guitar in tune. So that's a few of my techniques. Maybe you've got other ones. I'd love to hear what else you've maybe done in the past to get your guitar in tune. And in some cases, like using a landline phone with your dial tone, it may be something a little unconventional, but it works. It gets the job done, and you can get there. Even if you've tuned with a piano before, in some cases that's the only option that you have. And not all pianos are perfectly in tune, so if you're going to play with an acoustic piano, I would tune to the piano anyway. But in this case, you just have other options that you can use to get yourself in tune without the use of a tuner if you need to. But I hope this was fun and that you've learned something today. And again, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions or if you've got a story about tuning your guitar in a situation like this. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, and as always, love you guys.